Catholic Youth Ministers, welcome. It is so great to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Joe Ruche, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel, Catholic Youth Ministry Matters. Thanks again for tuning in. I sure appreciate it. And today we are on site here at one of the most beautiful parks here in Minneapolis, entitled the Rose Garden. Here we are. Enjoy the scenery as we talk about these questions. How do you connect with Catholic young people? How do you link into them in a good, healthy, appropriate way, in a way that's meaningful and that will last? If you've ever asked yourself those questions, this episode is going to address that challenge. So if you're ready, let's go. Key number one in connecting with young people is our body language. Be aware of how we're coming across. And that takes the form of how we look. What does our face look like? We talked about this in the last episode, but it's talking about paralanguage. Our voice, our eyes. Is our body language open and welcoming and receiving? Do we have a smile on our face? Do we seem happy and energetic and thrilled that they're here? So our paralanguage is key number one, making sure we know how we come across. Because as the initiator, we want to make sure that we are bringing across a positive energy, a welcoming energy, and an energy that lets that Catholic young people know you are valuable and I want to get to know you. That's key number one. The second thing you want to do to establish a relationship with a Catholic young person is it's important to find some kind of a common ground, some points of interest that maybe you two share. And it's not as difficult as you think it might be. I'll ask them, what are their hobbies? When they have time to do anything in the world that they want to do, how do they spend that time? And it's amazing how free and open that these Catholic young people will be with you as you just authentically and sincerely just want to know more about them. How do they spend their free time? Do they work? Do they have a job? What interests do they have? Tell me about your brothers and sisters. Do you have any? Oh, you do? My gosh, well, I happen to have 6 brothers and a sister too. And they happen to also have J as their first name. Joe, John, Jim, Jeff, Joni, Jerry, Jay, and Jed. Oh, man, can you believe it? So it's so easy. You just go trolling a little bit. You just go fishing a little bit just to try to find out, is it something with sports, something with hobbies, something how they spend their free time? Is there some interest that you share with them? Just ask. Just ask. Just probe a little bit. I know I ran into a young person at a retreat here a couple of weeks ago, and I could just kind of tell that that person was smart. And even if you mess this up, it's not like a big deal. But I walked up to him and he introduced himself. His name was William. I said, well, William, I am Joe. So glad to meet you. William, I don't know you at all, but you strike me as somebody really smart. Are you smart, William? And William kind of nodded his head and says, I think so. I said, really? I said, so what kind of classes are you taking at school? And he's telling about all these classes whose names I can hardly even pronounce, with science and high levels of math. And I'm like, my goodness, William, you and me are polar opposites with brains like that. Glad to meet you. I always like to meet up with smart people. So you see what I did? It's just very light, very easy going. It's not like FBI. It's just wanting to authentically, sincerely, just try to find out more about their hobbies and their interests. And I promise you, after 2 or 3 or 4 questions, there'll be something there. The third thing I do to try to make a connection with Catholic young people before I leave that conversation is to let them know that I'm so grateful I met you, William. You are awesome, William. I'm so looking forward to seeing you again. And I'm so glad that you're in my small group. Say, William, I don't know if you've got anything in particular I can pray for, but I pray. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pray for you this week, William. I'm going to pray that you do well with your classes. And I don't know if you've got any tests coming up or any papers coming up or what's going on in your coming week. But I'm going to be praying for you, William, because you are awesome, William. I really like you, and I wish I had the brains that you have. You know, and sometimes I'll give them a physical nudge, maybe a little elbow, just some kind of a point of contact, you know, to kind of put that exclamation down a little bit. Maybe I'll ask them, hey, do you have any big games coming up? You got a football game, hockey game, ball game of any kind, baseball? And they may or may not, but if they do, I'll say, well, gosh, I'm just going to pray you do your best, and I just hope your team does so great. Sometimes I'll ask them, is there anything you would like me to pray for? Is anybody in your family ill or possibly out of work, or are there any needs there? And sometimes they may share with you what those are on that deeper level. And if they don't, that's okay. Just wrap it up and just say, well, gosh, William, I'll be praying for you for these couple of things, and I'll sure be looking forward to seeing you next week. Hey, you have a good week. I'm so glad you're in my group. So the last thing that you want to do, and this is really important, you want to make sure you've taken some notes somewhere that William is on the hockey team. William is a very high-functioning intellectual person, and he has tests, he has papers, he has exam, he's got a big game, he's got a big test, and you want to follow that up. So when I see William in a week, William, hey, great to see you again. Man, I've been praying for you and so thrilled to meet you last week. Hey, you had mentioned you had a big test last week. You had a big paper. How did that go? Did it go okay? I remember those tests back in the day, and they never went very well for me. And usually, William said, "Oh yeah, it went very well." So follow that up. If you asked them if they were in sports, follow up. How did the game go? How did you do? Was it a good game? Was it a tough game? How'd your team end up? So do some follow up to let them know that you really do care for them. Because again, the phrase is, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Those are the 3 steps, the 3 tips, the three dynamics in connecting with Catholic young people. Number 1, again, just making sure you're coming across positive and welcoming and open. Secondly, you just want to establish some kind of common ground by asking just very simple questions that aren't very deep. And then thirdly, you want to make sure that you follow up any information that you discovered in step number 2 with just follow-up questions, expressing interest, that you were praying for them, that you were rooting for them. Hey, I saw you on television, your team won, way to go. So these are the steps in connecting with Catholic young people. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I so appreciate it. Before you leave, if you could do a couple of quick thanks for me, they really, really help. 1, hit that red subscribe button and the bell icon next to it so you're the first to know when I release a new video. Secondly, hit that like button. And then thirdly, I'd love to come to your parish. Check out my website below for all the details. Until next time, keep up the faith and keep up the mission, because you matter and Catholic Youth Ministry matters. Amen? Amen.